They told me to wear black. Not a gown. Not something that might catch attention. Just black. Clean, discreet, forgettable. Something that blended into the staff. I stood at the side entrance of the Rainier Grand Ballroom, my heels silent against the marble floor, as a valet mistook me for catering and handed me a tray of champagne flutes. I didn't correct him. Inside, the chandeliers glittered above a sea of sequin dresses and tailored tuxedos. Seattle's elite buzzed like a hive of ambition and old money. The air smelled of lavender oil and expensive wine, and that's when Nolan, my brother-in-law, looked straight at me and said, loud enough for everyone near the entrance to hear, "Excuse me, are you the help? Staff should use the side hallway." His wife Delilah, golden brittle, smiling too wide, giggled and turned back to their guests like I hadn't existed. I didn't flinch. I walked past him, slow, deliberate. My heels clicked like a metronome for something inevitable. There's a saying I'd memorized. When they count you out, count down. My name is Isla Thornton, 34. Technically, I run Thornton Enterprises, but they don't know that. Not yet. Not even my husband knows. The ballroom buzzed. The Thorntons posed for photos under a custom LED wall displaying, "Welcome to the future of finance." Their guests toasted Nolan as the heir. Delilah made a speech about legacy. The crowd clapped on cue. I moved silently through the crowd like a shadow, unseen but everywhere. When Delilah raised her glass and said, "Here's to the future, where family means loyalty," I turned toward the back hallway. That was the line that told me everything. I had hidden behind strategy long enough. Behind NDAs, silence, and back-channel ownership structures. I'd built the tech, authored the patents, written the damn bylaws. Nolan had the face. Delilah had the lies. And they'd all used my work like it was theirs. No more. My hand trembled only slightly as I typed the internal HR authorization on my phone. Effective immediately. Begin 24-hour investigation. Freeze all Thornton family member accounts and access to corporate systems. Flag for compliance. Send. The message flew through encrypted lines to the people who actually reported to me. I turned toward the ballroom. My father-in-law, Douglas Thornton, stood on the stage, bragging about his sons and the family's decades of leadership. He'd skipped my name again, for the 5th year in a row. They always skipped my name. I walked past a security guard stationed by the bar, gave him a nod. His hand moved subtly to his earpiece. His eyes met mine. He knew. Let them finish their speeches. Let them toast their own delusion. Because tomorrow, when the boardroom doors opened and the truth poured out, their names would be printed at the top of the disciplinary memos. And the company they thought they ruled? It had never been theirs. My phone buzzed. A message from HR. Understood. Executing protocol. First contact in 30 minutes. Shall we prepare legal counsel? I typed back one word, no. Let them squirm. Let them drown in their own silence. I stepped outside into the cold. Rain slicked the pavement, reflecting the city like broken glass. Somewhere inside, Delilah laughed. And somewhere deeper, the truth tightened its grip. They called me invisible. They made me disappear. Now I'd learned how to haunt. The gala would be the last time they ever stood that high above me. And the fall would be televised. It started with static. My phone buzzed against the marble counter, screen lit with an HR alert. 24H protocol initiated. Family members contacted. Legal bypass pending. 1 minute later, the feed died. I stood in the middle of the kitchen. Lights still on. The hum of the refrigerator the only sound. The silence wasn't peace. It was loaded. They say power doesn't corrupt. It just reveals. I walked into my office. Rain tapped against the glass windows. Seattle blurred in a sheet of wet light. I clicked my encrypted vault drive open. The files were there. The contracts. The 62% equity agreement. Hidden under shell companies. Ironclad by trust attorneys. structured so deep that even if you looked, you wouldn't see. I didn't build a firewall. I built a labyrinth. A blinking cursor waited at the bottom of the screen. One command, and it would trigger distribution. Legal disclosure to every board member, investor, compliance officer. But I didn't hit send. Not yet. When you strike, make it irreversible. Something clanged. Not loud. Metallic. Far end of the hallway. I froze. Footsteps. Not rushed. Just one. Then two. Measured. My apartment has a double door. 5-digit code. Reinforced glass. Private elevator access. No one gets in. Unless they already were. I slipped the drive from the port and shut the laptop. Reached under the desk. Touched metal. Don't panic, I whispered. Observe. Then act. The sound stopped. I stepped out, silent, barefoot. Living room empty. Lights off. TV screen black, reflecting a faint silhouette. I turned. Nothing. Then the wall outlet sparked. A sharp pop, a trail of smoke spiraled out. The breaker tripped. Lights flickered. Then total black. I didn't scream. I moved. Grabbed the emergency flashlight. Flicked it on. Beam sliced through shadows like a blade. Nobody. But something was wrong. The back panel of the smart cabinet, where the central server node was hidden, was ajar. Someone had touched it. Or tried to. My pulse climbed. Not corporate sabotage. Personal. This wasn't about the company. This was about me. You don't hide power like this without inviting a war. My voice sounded hoarse. Or maybe it was the storm outside swallowing the sound. I backed up, locked the server again, secured the files in the vault, triggered backup protocols to an offshore node. Once activated, no one could stop the transfer. Not even me. A faint vibration from my phone. Unknown number. One text. You exposed them. You opened Pandora's box. No trace. No location tag. Just the cold words. I dropped the phone. A second later it rang. Same number. I let it ring. For times. Then silence. Then voicemail. A voice not robotic. Human. Male. Measured. You have 24 hours before everything you love goes dark. Enjoy the applause. The message ended with static. I stood in that dark apartment and knew two things. 1. This wasn't just fallout from the gala. 2. Someone inside knew exactly what I'd done. Next morning, I walked into the Thornton Enterprises lobby. All glass, steel, and silence. My heels echoed louder than they should have. The receptionist avoided eye contact. Security glanced at me twice. 3rd floor. Boardroom C. I opened the door. 6 faces turned toward me. CEO. CFO. Legal counsel. Jared Linwood from Product Dev. Camila Tran from Compliance. And Nolan. He smiled. Didn't expect you to show, he said. You never expect the thunder until you see the lightning. I sat. Clicked the remote. Screens lit up. Legal filings. Ownership graphs. Encrypted evidence. Screenshots of internal sabotage. Delilah's password logs. Nolan's private account routing transfers to offshore firms. I clicked again. A paused video. Marisol, my old systems director. Time-stamped from a security feed. Entering restricted server access. But not yesterday. Last week. They'd been digging into my files before the gala. I turned to Jared. He didn't blink. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. He looked at Nolan. Then looked down. Distraction. I felt it too late. My phone buzzed again. This time, a push notification from our internal server. Admin clearance revoked. File ownership reassigned. Impossible. I triggered two-factor. Locked out. I looked up. Camila's eyes were wide. She wasn't in on it. But Nolan was. Sometimes, he said, the best way to steal a kingdom is to make the queen show her crown first. The files were gone. The locks had been tampered with. And I realized the real hunt had just begun. Nolan walked out of the boardroom first. No words, just that half-smirk, tight, sharp, a blade hidden in a smile. I stayed behind. Jared lingered by the glass wall, watching the rain smear downtown into a blur. His silence wasn't guilt. It was survival. You knew they were coming for it, I said. He didn't look at me. I knew they were watching, he murmured, but I didn't think they'd move this fast. You never do. That's the thing about betrayal. It always moves faster than trust. I stepped out into the hallway. Security turned away as I passed. A silent message, "We don't work for you anymore." Cut scene. I hit the elevator. Swiped my admin card. Access denied. Third swipe. Same result. A man in a gray suit stepped in behind me. Polished shoes. No ID badge. "Miss Thornton?" he asked, voice level, tone too polite. "Depends. I'm with AMC Corporate Security. We've been instructed to escort you off premises pending a formal investigation." I didn't flinch, just turned slowly. "You don't even know what you're guarding." "That's not my department." "No, it never is." Elevator doors opened. Lobby. Cold. Empty. They walked me out like I was disposable, like I hadn't built half this empire from raw code and sleepless nights, like I hadn't kept the company alive while the Thornton heirs played golf and faked spreadsheets. But I kept walking. Power doesn't sit in the room. It waits outside of it. Cut scene. I got in the car. Black Tesla. Windows tinted. Jared was already inside. He handed me a burner phone. "Marisol's waiting." "How bad is it?" "Worse." We drove fast, past Capitol Hill, down into the industrial district, where the glass and chrome of downtown faded into concrete and old warehouse scars. The Tesla stopped in front of a side building with no signage. Marisol opened the door before I knocked. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her laptop was already on. The glow of 3 screens flickered behind her. Coffee. Wires. A gun on the desk, unregistered. "Someone wiped your server fingerprint," she said. I locked it down. "They unlocked it with your biometric." I stared. "That's not possible unless—" "They got your handprint off the biometric scanner. Your personal one. From your own condo." A beat. My condo. My home. Marisol turned the screen. Footage. Time-stamped 2:34 a.m. A figure in gloves. Hood. Clean. Efficient. Not smashing. Extracting. Smart lock overridden. No damage. They'd been inside. While I slept. I couldn't breathe for a second. "Who else has access to the code logs?" I asked. Marisol didn't answer. She just looked at Jared. That's when I saw it. Not guilt. Fear. He turned the second screen. Encrypted email. Subject. Phase 1 authorization lockdown. Sender. r.holloway@tor-and.com. CO. The puppet. Not Nolan. Not Delilah. Rhett Holloway. He'd signed the executive override order. Used my fingerprint. Transfer control of all firewall admin to a third-party shell. I scanned the metadata. The IP location? Not internal. A private server in Chicago. Listed under Valenbridge Holdings. I sat back. The name scraped something deep. Valenbridge, where Delilah's brother worked. He wasn't just outside the company. He was the buyer. They were selling it off. One piece at a time. Merging shell structures. Scrubbing names. Using me as the silent founder to lure capital. Then erasing me from the system. I looked at Marisol. What's left? She clicked again. One file. Unmarked. No preview. She opened it. Silence. Then, a still image. Me. At the Gala. In black. Standing behind the bar. Camera angle from above. Not security cam. Personal. Zoomed. Labeled. Collateral confirmed. I felt cold. Not the kind you feel on your skin. The kind you feel under it. They've marked you, Marisol said. You're not just being pushed out. You're being set up. I stared at the screen. My image stared back. Jared leaned forward. We can still flip this. We have one shot, but it has to be clean, legal, traceable. You'll need to call the real HR. Not the in-house team. The federal one. I nodded. The weight in my chest turned into fire. This was never about ownership, I said. This was about erasure. And I don't vanish quietly. I stood up, grabbed the burner phone, dialed the line I never wanted to use. A direct link to the Office of Corporate Crime Investigations. The tone rang once. A voice answered. This is OCCI. Who am I speaking with? I took a breath. This is Isla Thornton, founder, CTO, and legal majority shareholder of Thornton Enterprises. I'm ready to file a federal complaint. I have names, dates, and proof. And then I said the words that would ruin everything they built. And you'll want to start with Rhett Holloway. Because sometimes the real enemy isn't the one stealing your name. It's the one erasing it from history. The OCCI agent arrived wearing no badge, no tie, no smile. Just a worn black field jacket and a dull silver pen clipped to the front pocket. He didn't give a name. Just said, call me D. Like we were in a Cold War novel. We met in a basement office beneath a law firm I didn't trust, in a building I'd never entered before. Perfect. D dropped a leather folder on the table. Internal memo from AMC's legal team, he said. They're denying knowledge of the override order. I scanned the document. Holloway's signature wasn't there. Just a reference code. Something called Echo Tier Override V67. That wasn't company protocol. It was federal level. Military grade. You're telling me corporate executives signed off on a covert level ops tool for a family merger? D leaned back, unfazed. I'm telling you someone used a dormant security program designed for cyber warfare to erase you from your own servers. Cut scene. He opened a laptop, loaded a secondary screen. Logs. Access trails. One stood out. Time, 3:12 a.m. Location, Thornton Mountain Estate. Device used, Jasper's tablet. I felt my stomach twist. Jasper, my husband. A line flicked in my brain. Something he'd said a week ago when I asked him about our estate security reset. It's just a precaution. You never know who's watching. He hadn't been paranoid. He'd been covering his tracks. D watched my face shift. You think he was in on it? I shook my head once. I think he started it. Flash cut. Back at Marisol's bunker office. She pulled up another file. It took her 12 hours of dark routing to crack. What she found wasn't code. It was voice. Audio logs from internal meeting calls. Some recorded without consent. Some encrypted so deeply they might have been forgotten. One clip. A voice. Female. Controlled. Delilah. I don't care how we package it. The point is, she disappears from the cap table. We can leave her stock in escrow. Freeze the voting rights under a compliance audit. 2 quarters of silence and no one will care. Then Nolan. She's not going to take that quietly. Then Jasper. She won't have a choice. We have Echo Tier now. By the time she notices, we'll be done. I sat back. The walls felt like they were pulsing. I could hear myself breathing fast. Marisol turned to me. You want to release it? No, I said. Not yet. They need to feel the wall cracking. Not hear it. Fear isn't about the threat, I added. It's about the silence before the hit. Next step. Federal filing. Jared set up the back end with our legal contact, Ava Cole, former SEC forensic attorney. She worked clean, fast, brutal. We filed 3 counts. Fraudulent misappropriation of assets. Illegal transfer of majority ownership. Corporate identity tampering using unauthorized cybersecurity protocols. I signed digitally, then again in ink. Cut scene. Rain smashed the windows as we entered the public ballroom of the Thornton Foundation's quarterly donor event. 100 people, champagne in hand, smiling at ghosts. Delilah stood near the center. White dress, diamond earrings, a fake future polished to blinding. She saw me. I watched her throat tense, but the smile stayed. That's her weapon, never drop the act. I walked straight up. You should leave, she said under her breath. I leaned in. You ever notice how silence echoes louder in marble rooms? She blinked. Enjoy tonight, I said. Tomorrow, you'll be lucky to make it past reception. Cut scene. Outside, 2 black cars waited. OCCI agents in plain clothes filed into the event, discreet, efficient. Inside, D nodded to security. You've got 15 minutes, he said to me. After that, we move, whether you're ready or not. I entered the green room. Jasper was there. Alone. Notia. Shirt slightly undone. Hair damp. He looked smaller than I remembered. Why? I asked. He didn't fake innocence. Because they said you'd never come back. They said you were tired. That you wanted to disappear. And for a second, I believed them. He stepped forward. You still think you're the only one who wanted this company to stand? I shook my head. No. I just know I'm the only one who built it without betrayal. I handed him a folder. His name on it. The documents inside. A filing for direct complicity in corporate fraud. Co-signed by Ava Cole. Stamped by OCCI. He stared at the seal. Said nothing. They're waiting for you outside, I said. You can walk out now. Or you can be escorted in front of every donor who ever believed your last name meant something. He looked up. I never wanted to be the villain. I smiled cold. Then you should have picked a different family. I turned toward the ballroom. The lights dimmed. Security stepped in. The first name called, Jasper Thornton. And as he walked forward, my voice whispered in his ear. Some wars don't start with gunfire. They start when the quiet one finally speaks. The OCCI van rolled to a stop 2 blocks from my penthouse. Rain spat against the windshield. My grip on the handle tightened. Inside, Agent D sat across from me, his face half-lit by the dashboard screen. No expression. Just ice. Remember, he said, calm. Once we unlock the door, it's federal containment. No gets. No bargains. I nodded. I thought of a line I'd once read. Power resides where men believe it resides. Tonight, I'd prove where it actually lived. Cut scene. The door swiveled inward. Black-suited agents flooded the hallway. Boots silent, flashlights steady. Within 30 seconds, the penthouse was a storm of clicks, beeps, sealed bags, cameras, laptops, encrypted drives. Jared waited outside the living room, hands raised. I walked past him slow. Floorboards creaked under polished heels. Lights snapped off. Emergency strobes filled the space with red-blue pulses. Shadows danced across white walls. The server rack, once hidden behind a painting, was already open. Agents removed drives, white-gloved. I watched each one, memorized their faces. Marisol's laptop glowed on the coffee table. She knelt next to it, fingers flying over keys. They're trying to delete the backups, she said, her voice normal, but her eyes wide. No, I said. Too slow. Cut. She slammed the lid shut. A flash drive snapped to life, external backup, automatic remote sync to secure cloud escrow. Her fingers trembled. Outside, a knock on the glass door. Heavy, metal against bulletproof frame. Open up, a male voice barked. This is AMC Corporate Security. Order 212 Omega. Federal asset retrieval. You are under detainment. Distraction. I turned, looked my husband in the eye. standing there, face pale, suit drenched from rain, lips shaking. He stepped forward. Isla, we can fix this. I laughed. Short, cold. Fix? I echoed. You helped build the trap. He stuttered. You don't understand. They forced my hand. I studied him. The guilt was real. But guilt doesn't clear crime scenes. Evidence does. Cut to close up. My hand pressed record on the burner phone. Camera light minimal. Everything is recorded. Agents moved in. One placed cuffs on his wrists. Snap. Click. Steel echo. The room went silent, heavier than any rain. Cut. Hours later. A sterile interrogation room. White walls. Single, glass-walled booth. Bright fluorescent light. Too bright. Agent D slid a file across the table. Photos. Logs. Email chains. Shell company transfers. Valenbridge Holdings, he said. Linked directly to offshore accounts. Funds moved 2 nights before the gala. Transfers to Tacitus Capital. Shell Corp tied to Delilah's brother. Camera pans slow. A lit cigarette on the edge of the table, ash falling. Sound sharp. Breath loud. He leaned forward. These names will appear in the affidavit. Charges will be filed by morning. Insider trading, asset misappropriation, corporate fraud, identity tampering with cybersecurity weapons. I exhaled. Hard. Good, I said. That's only the start. Cut scene. Back at the Thornton Foundation's Gala, the quarterly donor event. Guests in tuxedos and glittering gowns. A string quartet playing. Glasses raised. Toasts to legacy, leadership, integrity. Delilah stood at the center. Pearl necklace. Smile broad, practiced. She clung to charm like a life raft. Flash. The doors burst open. 2 OCCI agents stepped in. One in crisp suit. One scanning badges. Cameras flashed, not from guests, from media. Wall-mounted phones started ringing. Employees pulled out tablets, recorded. The string quartet froze. Music ended mid-note. A hush. Then a voice over a stuttered speaker. In the name of Federal Statute 18201, Thornton Enterprises is under immediate seizure. All assets frozen. 2 suspects in custody. I walked through the room, dressed in the same black I wore at the beginning. Shoes silent, but the echo was deafening. Security tried to block me. I raised the burner phone. Camera on. This company belongs to its real owners. I said, my voice cut through crystal and silk. The ones who built it, not the ones who stole it. Cut. Cameras swung to Nolan. He paled. Delilah gasped hand over mouth. Guests murmured. Phones captured the moment. Live stream. Flashbacks weren't welcome. Not now. They were gone, disgraced, detained, exposed. Cut scene. Outside. Rain turned into sleet. Police vans lined the curb. Reporters shouted. Lights from cameras stabbed through the night like searchlights. Agent D grabbed my arm. We need to move you to safe house. I nodded. I didn't argue. But as I stepped into the van, I glanced back at the tall glass tower where everything began. The structure shimmered under city lights. The logo of Thornton Enterprises flickered, then vanished. I whispered under my breath. When the walls crumble, the ghosts leave too. Tonight, I watched them burn. She had triggered the blaze. And this city's skyscrapers would never forget. The city lights trembled beneath the rain. Seattle at midnight looked like a circuit board glowing under cracked glass. I stood behind the tinted window of the black SUV, watching the tower where Thornton Enterprises once ruled shrink into the skyline. I let the water run over the glass. Inside me, a fire cooled to clarity. Inside the van, Agent D handed me a folder. Thick, heavy with fate. Printouts of subpoenas, warrants, ice strike orders. All federal. I nodded. I'd expected this. I'd built for this. Cut scene. The flash drove through cable, screen, lens, the world went public. Front page banner, Thornton Empire seized. Subheader, CEO and board arrested. Founder emerges from shadows. My name blared across every device before 6 a.m. I didn't hide. I never had to. They reeled. The ghost they buried turned the grave into a stage. A week later, I walked through the restored lobby of the headquarters, silent, empty, sterile. No portraits. No heirlooms. No trophies. Just glass, desks, and clean floors. Jared Linwood stood by the elevator. He nodded. Respect, not relief. Marisol Duval sat at the CEO terminal. Alone, typing a final audit report. The glow from the screen outlined her. She looked tired, but alive. We did it, I whispered, not proud. Just real. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Cut. Outside, a press conference under police floodlights. Agent D read the charges: fraud, embezzlement, corporate sabotage, misuse of cybersecurity weapons, racketeering. I observed with calm eyes. The rain drummed hard against the glass roof, louder than the murmurs of cameras. I stepped forward when called. Microphone. Flash. Voices. Demand. Fear. I looked straight at the lens. This company was never about luxury parties, I said. It was built on code, on late nights, on the belief that merit mattered more than last names. A reporter asked, "Will the Thornton family ever return?" I smiled small. Not if justice returns first. Cut. Night. Penthouse. Candlelight. Rain still tapping. I sat at the window. No pride. No vengeance. Just memory. The words lingered in my mind. Power resides where people believe it resides. Tonight, I made them believe in truth. A knock at the door. Unexpected visitor. My mother-in-law. Face pale. No pearls. No mask. She slipped inside. Rainwater dripping off her coat. Her lips quivered. "I don't know what you really are," she said. "Not anymore." I didn't respond. Instead, I walked to the window, looked down at the city. People moving, lives shifting, lights flickering. Moments ago, she was part of a dynasty. Now she was just a woman, cold, wet, afraid. She cleared her throat. "What do you want from us?" I turned, eyes steady, voice soft. Nothing but change. A shift in the wind. The city deepened. I stepped back, let her leave. Door closed. Lock clicked. The ring of the bolt echoed in the empty apartment like a verdict. Weeks later, dawn. The phone rang early. A single message. From a number I didn't recognize. I pressed play. A distorted voice said, "You ended the first wave." Then a date. A time. Coordinates. Then nothing. I set the phone down. Rain battered the window again. I closed my eyes. They expected fear, wanted panic. But I had learned something important. Survival isn't about hiding. It's about owning what you built and living by it. I stood, walked to the balcony. The city splayed beneath. I inhaled deep. Cold air. Damp concrete. Promise. Tonight, I didn't just survive. I rebuilt. And as the first light of dawn broke over the skyline, I whispered for myself, not for them. When you're erased, build a legend instead.